The rain hammered the lakehouse roof like accusations I couldn't outrun, each drop a reminder of that night when Rowan's hands, rough from chopping wood, warm from stolen touches, pinned me against the creaking dock, his breath ragged against my neck as he whispered words that shattered everything we pretended to be. I was 18 then, all sharp edges and unspoken hungers, and he was the cousin who'd always been my anchor, until he became my undoing. In that moment, as lightning cracked the sky open, I tasted salt on his lips that wasn't just from the lake water. It was the first tear of a betrayal we both knew was coming, but neither of us could stop. Elias Thorne had always been the quiet one in the family, the kid who preferred sketching the jagged pines along Haven Lake over chasing fireflies with the rowdier cousins. Growing up in the sprawling chaos of our Thornhill reunions in rural Maine, where the air smelled of pine sap and grilled lobster from backyard barbecues, I learned early to fade into the background. My parents, with their endless debates over Dad's lobster traps and Mom's dreams of escaping to Portland for something more cultured, never noticed how I watched Rowan hail from across the picnic tables. He was 4 years older, built like the lumberjacks in Grandpa's old stories. Broad shoulders under faded flannel, dark blonde hair perpetually tousled by the wind off the water, and eyes the color of storm clouds rolling in from the Atlantic. Rowan was the golden boy, the one who could fix a boat engine with a grin and a wrench, who made aunts coo and uncles slap his back with pride. To me, he was a universe I orbited but never touched. That summer, the year I turned 18, everything shifted like the tide pulling secrets from the shore. Our family had rented the old Lakehouse on Whispering Cove for 2 weeks, a weathered cedar cabin perched on stilts above Haven Lake, its wraparound porch sagging under the weight of forgotten deck chairs and the ghosts of childhood summers. The place was a relic, with knotty pine walls etched with knife-carved initials from decades of thorns and hails, and a stone fireplace that belched smoke like it resented being lit. Dad joked it was the family glue, but I saw it for what it was. A pressure cooker for all the things we buried under small talk and esmores. Rowan arrived late on the first day, his pickup truck kicking up gravel as it barreled down the dirt road from Bangor. He was 22, fresh out of community college with a vague plan to take over Uncle Hale's auto shop, and the weight of expectation clung to him like the damp fog that rolled in every evening. I was sprawled on the dock, sketchpad in lap, charcoal smudging my fingers as I tried to capture the way the sunlight fractured on the water, jagged lines that mirrored the knot in my chest. I'd known I was different since I was 14, when the other boys at school locker room horsed around and I found myself staring too long at the curve of a shoulder, the flex of a thigh. But admitting it, that was a line I hadn't crossed, not even in my own head. "Hey, kid." Rowan's voice cut through the lap of waves, low and teasing, the way it always was when he ruffled my hair like I was still 10. He dropped his duffel by the dock's edge and crouched beside me, close enough that I caught the scent of his soap. Clean, piney, mixed with the faint tang of motor oil that never quite washed out. Up close, his face was all angles. High cheekbones shadowed by a weekend's growth, lips curved in that half-smile that made my stomach twist. "Not a kid anymore, Ro," I muttered, snapping the sketchpad shut a little too fast. My voice cracked on the edge, betraying the heat creeping up my neck. He laughed, a sound like gravel under tires, and nudged my shoulder with his, "Yeah, prove it. Race you to the buoy." Before I could protest, he was stripping off his shirt, revealing the lean muscle honed from years of wrenching engines and chopping firewood for the family bonfires. He dove in without a splash, slicing the water like he owned it. I hesitated, heart pounding, then followed. The cold shock of the lake swallowing my gasp, the world narrowing to the burn in my lungs and the glimpse of his form ahead, strong and sure. We surfaced together, gasping, and for a second, our eyes locked over the bobbing buoy. Water streamed down his face, catching in his lashes, and something flickered there. Not just cousinly ribbing, but a question heavy and unspoken. "You win," he said finally, voice rougher than the waves, and swam back without another word. That night, as the family crammed around the long oak table for a feast of clams and corn. The air thick with laughter and the clink of beer bottles. I felt his gaze like a brand. Aunt Lila was regaling everyone with tales of her garden back in Augusta, Uncle Hale boasting about Rowan's latest fix on the old Ford, and my little sister Mia giggling over her plate. But Rowan sat across from me, knees brushing mine under the table. Accidental, maybe, but he didn't pull away. When our eyes met, he held it, a beat too long, and I wondered if he felt it too. The pull, like gravity between two stars too close to orbit safely. Later, as the fireflies danced outside and the adults drifted to the porch with their whiskey, Rowan found me in the attic loft. My unofficial escape, piled with dusty trunks and the creak of floorboards that echoed like confessions. I was flipping through an old photo album, fingers tracing faded images of us as kids. Him hoisting me on his shoulders at last year's reunion, both of us grinning toothless and free. The loft smelled of mothballs and aged paper, the single bulb casting long shadows that made everything feel intimate, forbidden. Can't sleep. He leaned in the doorway, arms crossed, still in his jeans and a threadbare tee that hugged his chest. I shrugged, heat blooming in my cheeks. Too much noise downstairs. You? Same. He stepped in, the floor groaning under his weight, and dropped onto the old quilt beside me. His thigh pressed against mine, solid and warm, and I froze, every nerve alight. We sat like that, the album open between us, his finger landing on a photo of the two of us at 13 and 17, arms slung around each other after a day on the lake. Remember this? You wiped out on that tube and I had to fish you out. Thought you'd never forgive me for laughing. I chuckled, but it came out strained. You laughed because you were jealous I almost beat you. Bullshit. His grin faded, replaced by something softer, searching. The air thickened, charged like the storm brewing over the cove. He shifted, his hand brushing mine on the page. Deliberate this time, and neither of us moved. Elias, you ever think about how we're wired different? Like the family's all straight arrow. But my breath caught. He'd said it, or close enough. Heart slamming against my ribs. I turned to him, inches away now, his eyes dark pools reflecting the dim light. All the time, I whispered, the words tumbling out like stones skipping across water. Since, forever. He leaned in, slow, giving me an out I didn't take. His lips met mine tentative at first, tasting of mint and the faint bitterness of beer, then deeper, hungrier, as if we'd both been starving for this. His hand cupped my jaw, thumb tracing the line of my throat, and I melted into it, fingers tangling in his damp hair, the world narrowing to the heat of his mouth, the press of his body against mine on that scratchy quilt. It was clumsy, electric, the kind of first kiss that rewires your soul. When we broke apart, gasping, his forehead rested against mine. This has got to stay here in this house, okay? I nodded even as doubt flickered. Yeah, just here. But lies like that don't hold water. They seep through the cracks, pooling until they drown you. The days blurred into a haze of stolen moments and the constant hum of family obliviousness. Mornings, we'd kayak out to the hidden cove where the willows dipped low, their branches veiling us like a curtain call. There, with the water lapping at the hull and the sun filtering through leaves and golden shafts, we'd talk. Really talk, for the first time. Rowan confessed the pressure of being the fixer. The one who patched boats and egos but couldn't mend his own fraying edges. Dad's got this vision. Me taking the shop, marrying some nice girl from town, popping out kids to carry on the Hale name. But what if that's not me? His voice cracked on the last word, vulnerability cracking his armor. I'd trace patterns on his forearm, the fine hairs standing under my touch. Then you fight for what's real, like this. And I'd kiss him again, slow and sure, until the doubts dissolved in the salt of our skin. Afternoons were riskier. A quick brush of hands in the kitchen while passing plates of blueberry pie. His foot hooking mine under the dinner table amid the clatter of forks. Mia once caught us laughing too hard over a shared inside joke, her pigtails swinging as she squinted. You two are weird today. We played it off, but the seed of fear took root. Nights were ours. After the house quieted, we'd slip out to the dock. The wood slick under bare feet, stars pricking the velvet sky like promises. One evening, as loons called across the lake, Rowan pulled me down beside him, his body a warm line against the chill. "Tell me something true," he murmured, lips grazing my temple. I hesitated, the words heavy. "I think I'm gay. For real. Not just curious." Saying it aloud felt like jumping off the dock into icy depths. Terrifying. Freeing. He went still, then pulled me closer, his heartbeat a steady drum under my palm. "Me too, Elias. Been fighting it since high school. That guy on the wrestling team. God, it messed me up." His confession spilled out in fragments. The shame of stolen glances in locker rooms, the prayers whispered in empty churches back home, the girls he dated just to fit the script. We lay there, tangled in each other's arms, the lake whispering secrets of its own. His kisses turned fervent, hands exploring with a reverence that made my chest ache. Fingers mapping collarbones, dipping lower to the waistband of my shorts, drawing gasps that echoed over the water. It was on the fourth night that the first crack appeared. We'd retreated to the loft again, the air thick with the scent of rain-soaked earth drifting through the cracked window. Clothes shed in a frenzy, his mouth hot on my skin, tracing paths that left me trembling. When he entered me, slow, careful, both of us slick with sweat and need, it was like coming home and leaving it all at once. Pain blurred into pleasure, his name a mantra on my lips, our bodies moving in a rhythm as old as the tides. Afterward, spent and sated, we curled together under the quilt, his breath evening out against my neck. But as dawn crept in, gray light filtering through the slats, Rowan bolted upright, eyes wide with something feral. "Shit, what the hell are we doing?" He scrubbed a hand over his face, voice laced with panic. "This can't. Elias, we're blood. Family. If anyone finds out." The words landed like a slap, cold and stinging. "It's not just family, Ro. It's us. What we feel."
No.
He cut me off, yanking on his jeans with jerky motions. "This was a mistake. Summer fever. We burn it out here, like I said." His eyes avoided mine, fixed on the floorboards as if they held escape routes. I sat up, sheet clutched to my chest, throat tight. "You don't mean that." He paused in the doorway, back to me, shoulders hunched like a man carrying the world. "I do. Stay away from me, Elias. For both our sakes." Then he was gone, the stairs creaking his retreat, leaving me in the dim light with the echo of his touch and the hollow ache of rejection. The rest of the week dragged like a storm that wouldn't break. Rowan threw himself into family duties, fixing the leaky roof with Uncle Hale, teaching Mia to bait a hook, his smiles forced, his glances my way sharp with warning. I mirrored him, sketching furiously in the loft, charcoal lines turning darker, more fractured. The Lakehouse, once a sanctuary, felt like a cage, every creak a reminder of what we'd shared and shattered. By the reunion's end, as trunks were packed and goodbyes exchanged under a sky bruised with clouds, I cornered him in the garage, amid the clutter of fishing rods and oil cans. "We need to talk." His jaw tightened, wrench pausing mid-turn on the truck's tire. "Nothing to say." "Bullshit." Anger flared, hot and unfamiliar. "You can't just take that from me and pretend it didn't happen." He straightened, towering over me, eyes stormy. "I did us a favor. You're young, Elias. You'll go off to art school or whatever. Find someone who isn't tangled in this mess. Me? I'm stuck here. The Hales don't do. Different. And what if I want the mess?" My voice broke, fists clenched at my sides. "What if this is the realest thing I've ever felt?" For a heartbeat, regret softened his features, his hand twitching as if to reach out. Then the mask slammed back down. "Forget it. All of it." He turned away, the truck door slamming like finality. I left Haven Lake that day with a piece of my heart anchored to the bottom, watching in the rearview as the Lakehouse faded. Rowan's truck a speck on the horizon. Little did I know, the real storm was just gathering force. One that would drag us both under years later, when secrets don't stay buried. Years slipped by like pages in a half-read book, each one layering distance over the raw wound of that summer. I fled to Portland for art school, immersing myself in the city's pulse. Cobblestone streets alive with street performers, the salty bite of harbor air mingling with coffee roasts from corner cafes. At 25 now, I shared a cramped loft apartment overlooking the Willamette River with my best friend, Theo, a wiry photographer with a laugh like shattered glass and a knack for pulling me out of my sketches when they turned too brooding. "You're brooding again, Thorne," he'd say, tossing a sketchpad aside to drag me to dive bars where indie bands wailed about lost loves. I'd smile, sip my IPA, and let the music drown the echo of Rowan's voice. But the Lakehouse lingered, a specter in my dreams. The creak of the dock, the taste of him on my tongue, the sting of his rejection like salt in an open cut. I dated, fitful flings with baristas and fellow artists, bodies that moved with mine but never filled the hollow. None of them knew the boy who'd learned to love in whispers, who'd bartered his heart for a handful of stolen nights. Then, the call came on a drizzly October afternoon, as leaves turned the city streets to fire. Mom's voice trembled through the line, laced with that main edge sharpened by worry. "Elias, it's Grandpa Hale. Stroke. He's not good." The family's gathering at the Lakehouse. One last time. My stomach dropped, the sketch I'd been nursing. A fractured portrait of two silhouettes against a stormy lake, blurring under sudden tears. "How's Rowan?" The question slipped out unbidden, a reflex after 7 years of silence. Pause heavy as fog. Struggling. Lost his dad last year to the cancer. Shops barely hanging on. "Come home, honey. For all of us." Home. The word tasted like rust. But I packed a bag anyway. The Amtrak ride north, a blur of rain-streaked windows and half-formed regrets. Haven Lake greeted me unchanged. The same gravel crunch under tires, the cove's waters slate gray under overcast skies. The Lakehouse stood defiant, paint peeling like old skin, but the porch light flickered on as my rental car pulled up, casting a warm glow over the assembled Thorns and Hales. Aunts with tight hugs, uncles with backslaps. Mia now a lanky teen with my old sketchpad in hand. And there, by the fireplace inside, was Rowan. 29 now, the years had carved him deeper. Lines etched around his eyes from sleepless nights, shoulders broader but bowed under invisible weight, hair threaded with early silver at the temples. He looked up as I entered, our gazes colliding like thunderheads. The room's chatter faded to a hum, the air thickening with everything unsaid. "Elias." His voice was gravel, rougher than I remembered, but the way he said my name, soft, almost broken, cracked something in my chest. "Ro." I nodded, throat dry, and let Aunt Lila pull me into the fold of condolences and casseroles. But his eyes followed me all evening, a magnetic pull I couldn't ignore. That night, as rain lashed the windows again, I slipped out to the dock. Habit, muscle memory. The wood groaned under my weight, the lake a black mirror reflecting fractured stars. Footsteps approached, deliberate, and I didn't turn. Rowan settled beside me, close but not touching, the space between us a chasm bridged only by memory. "He's gone," Rowan said finally, voice cracking on the words. "Dad, just gone. And I keep thinking about all the shit I never said. All the ways I let fear win." I swallowed hard, the old ache resurfacing. "Like what happened here? With us?" He flinched but didn't deny it. "Yeah. God, Elias, I was a coward. Terrified of what it meant. For the family, for me. Pushed you away to save myself, but it just hollowed everything out." His hand hovered near mine, trembling, then dropped. "I've been with women since. Tried to play the part. But it's all smoke. You're the only real thing." The confession hung there, raw and bleeding. Rain mingled with the tears tracking down my face, and I turned to him, seeing not the golden boy, but the man who'd carried the same scar. It broke me, Ro, for years, but I never stopped. He closed the distance, his kiss desperate, saltwater and regret, hands framing my face like I might vanish. We stumbled back to the loft together, the stairs a gauntlet of whispers and touches, shedding years like sodden clothes. In the dim light, bodies familiar yet changed, we reclaimed what we'd lost, slow, reverent. His apologies murmured against my skin, my forgiveness etched in every gasp. But dawn brought no peace. As we lay entwined, the quilt a tangled witness, a knock shattered the quiet. Mia's voice, small and urgent. Rowan? Grandpa, he's asking for you. Now. We dressed in haste, the spell broken, but as we descended, hand in brush, I felt the undercurrent shift, not toward closure, but a reckoning. Grandpa Hale's room was a shrine to the past. Faded quilts, shelves of fishing lures, photos of boisterous reunions yellowing at the edges. He lay frail in the bed, skin translucent as onion paper, eyes milky but sharp. The family hovered like shadows, but he waved them off with a trembling hand. Rowan, Elias, come here, boys. We approached, side by side, the air thick with the scent of liniment and impending loss. His gaze flicked between us, knowing, as if the walls had whispered our secrets over the years. I knew, he rasped, voice a whisper of wind through pines. About you too, that summer. Saw the way you looked at each other. Like my Sarah and me, back when the world wasn't so damn narrow. Rowan's breath hitched, hand finding mine under the quilt's cover. Clinging, anchor in the storm. Grandpa, we. Hush. A faint smile cracked his lips. Love's not a sin, boy. It's the only thing that outlasts the traps and the tides. Don't waste it hiding. His eyes dimmed then, drifting to the window where the lake churned. Promise me. Live true. We nodded, tears blurring the room, and as his chest stilled minutes later, the family surged in with wails and embraces. But Rowan and I slipped away, out to the porch where dawn painted the water gold. He knew, Rowan murmured, wonder and grief twisting his features. Yeah. I squeezed his hand, the promise solidifying. And he was right. Rowan's jaw set, fire in his eyes I'd only glimpsed in our youth. The name's mine to carry, Dad. Or not. Elias's family, more than blood. Deal with it. The ultimatum hung, and Uncle stormed out, tires spinning gravel into the night. Days later, the shop's deed arrived by mail, signed over to a cousin in Bangor, with a note. Can't watch this shame. Rowan burned it in the fireplace, ashes curling like released ghosts, and turned to me with a fierce grin. Screw it. We're starting fresh. Portland. You, me, that loft of yours. I laughed through tears, pulling him close. Yeah, our story, not theirs. We left Haven Lake under a sky cleared to blue, the Lakehouse shrinking in the mirror. A chapter closed, but its echoes eternal. In Portland, amid the rain-slicked streets and Theo's bemused welcomes, we built something real. Mornings tangled in sheets, his oil-stained hands on my sketches, quiet nights where confessions flowed free. The betrayal of that summer scarred us, but scars tell stories of survival, of choosing love over fear. And in the end, as we stood on our balcony one crisp autumn eve, city lights winking like fireflies, Rowan traced my jaw, the same path he'd first followed in the loft, and whispered, I'll never forget what I did to you there, but damn if I don't thank God for it every day. I kissed him then, deep and sure, the river murmuring below. Neither will I, and that's how we know it's forever.